The U.S. consulate in Erbil in northern Iraq came under fire tonight, and Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed responsibility, according to Iranian state media. It's just the latest in a series of attacks by Iranian and Iranian-backed militia across the region since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th and Israel launched its response in Gaza. Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Israel Defense Forces have traded barrages, while the Houthis in Yemen have lobbed missiles toward Israel and continue attacking ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. For more on Iran's objectives and influence, we turn now to Karim Sajadpour, Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So, Karim, before we get into the details of some of these groups and their relationship with Iran, just broadly speaking, what's Iran's objective? What's the strategy here in the use of these proxy militias?
It's an important question, Amna. I would argue since Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution, there have been very few governments in the world that have had a more clear and consistent grand strategy over the last 4 or 5 decades. And there's essentially 3 pillars to that strategy. Number one, Iran is intent on evicting the United States from the Middle East. Number two, they're intent on replacing Israel with Palestine. And number 3, they want to help defeat the US-led world order. So I would argue Iran and all of its regional proxies share all these 3 objectives.
Use of those proxy militias also gives them some degree of deniability. The fact that they claimed responsibility for this attack on the U.S. consulate in northern Iraq as quickly as they did, what does that say to you?
You know, Iran has is oftentimes a pretty good judge of U.S. resolve. And so the fact that they are publicly claiming credit for attacks on U.S. outposts in the region probably means that they don't fear conflict with the United States, because they know this is a Biden administration which is intent on trying to de-escalate and avert conflicts in the region. And in some ways, that emboldens Iran.
So we know that Iran also backs both Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. How is their relationship with each of those groups different, and how is it the same?
Well, Hezbollah is the crown jewel of the Iranian Revolution. It's the most powerful of Iran's proxies, and it's essentially part of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. It's really a wholly owned subsidiary of the Iranian state. The Houthis are being trained by Hezbollah, and over the last decade, their relationship with Iran has grown much closer. And so, you know, at the end of the day, Iran doesn't micromanage these proxies. It doesn't call up Hezbollah or the Houthis or the Shia militias in Iraq and tell them what to do on a day-to-day basis. But it certainly macro manages those groups. And those groups, as I mentioned, they share these strategic objectives of trying to evict America from the Middle East and replace Israel with Palestine.
But the fact that we've seen this ramping up of the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, the ramping up of Hezbollah attacks across the border with Israel, is that being coordinated through Iran in any way? And could they call them off if they needed to?
I think there's no doubt it's being coordinated with the Iranian government. You know, Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has come out and said that all of Hezbollah's funding comes from Iran. You know, we know a giant chunk of Houthi funding comes from Iran. Hamas's military budget, 80% comes from Iran. So this is not simply charity that Iran is offering its proxies. This type of aid and support, military support, comes with major strings attached. So if Iran ordered its proxies to cease all attacks on U.S. interests, on Israel, I expect that they would do so right away.
Karim, tell me about the domestic pressure Iranian leadership is under that leads them to think this is the right strategy right now.
Well, the Iranian regime is deeply unpopular. It's essentially a socially authoritarian police state with a failing economy. Very few Iranians want to continue to live under the Islamic Republic. But you know, the reality is, as long as this Iranian regime remains in power, there's never going to be real meaningful stability in the Middle East, because this is a regime which really thrives with regional instability. The countries we've been talking about today, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Gaza, these are all essentially failing states. And so Iran has more effectively figured out how to fill power vacuums more than any other actor in the region. It thrives in this instability, and so does its proxies.
That is Karim Sajudpour, Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Karim, thank you. Good to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Amna.